Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Frank Boston. I'm here today on behalf of CoinFlip, which is one of the companies that has the kiosk. With me, I have his general counsel, Larry Lipka, who will be giving the expert testimony on the issue. We support this bill with amendments. We certainly support the concept of the bill to eliminate and reduce fraud. As a victim myself many times, and even recently, of different types of fraud on my bank account, I certainly support this concept. We support about 90% of this bill and what it's trying to accomplish for obvious reasons. But respectfully, we have a couple of amendments we want the committee to take a look at, and we look forward to working with the committee in this regard. To answer your question, it was a good question. SAR means Suspicious Activity Reports. And it is important, you know, the bill has unintended consequences, and to really get after the fraudulent actor, you're going to have to raise the limits, and Mr. Lipka can speak to that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Larry Lipka. I'm the general counsel of CoinFlip, one of the largest kiosk operators in the world. We operate a network of over 6,000 kiosks across 10 countries, including 45 kiosks across Maryland. Our customers value our kiosks because they are the only way to safely buy and sell cryptocurrency with cash. I'd like to thank Chair Beidel, Senator Hershey, Senator Hedelman, and the AARP for speaking to me about CoinFlip's support of the bill with amendments. We all share the goal of protecting consumers from bad actors seeking to protect them from their hard-earned money. The types of scams you heard about are the same that's happening across our country for all types of financial services products, and we all have to do our part to stop them. While we support the bill, including the licensing regime, in fact, we've already applied for a money transmitter license as of last year and are waiting for an answer on that. Right now, the state does not regulate the industry, and we think they should because that's the best first defense to keep the bad operators out. We believe the daily transaction limit should be increased to account for federal reporting requirements, including the $2,000 suspicious activity report you've heard about. And there are other thresholds as well, the collection of Social Security number at $3,000 and currency transaction reports at $10,000. When transactions are limited to $1,000, the federal government and thus law enforcement will receive less information, which will make it difficult to investigate and stop bad actors. We would support a reasonable transaction limit for new users who may not be familiar with our kiosks and thus are at higher risk of scams. However, existing customers who are familiar with our kiosks and thus are at low risk of being scammed should have the freedom to buy more crypto, and at least as much as the federal gift card limit of $10,000. We also believe the bill is missing important consumer protections, like requiring the use of blockchain analytics technology to ensure digital wallets are not associated with fraud or criminal activity. We look forward to continuing the discussions to improve the bill, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
My name is Jacqueline Cooper. I do not have written testimony. My testimony will be short and brief. I'm the founder of the Maryland Blockchain Association. My background is both as a lawyer as well as an educator. I've been in the blockchain space for over 10 years, and I definitely am in favor of the legislation of regulating virtual currency kiosks. I'm really sorry that the individual who testified before had this happen to him, but there's also some other supplemental things that we need to add to this bill. One, virtual kiosks that might say Bitcoin kiosks are clear on its face. It sounded as if the kiosk that he went to was not clear on its face as to the variety of options. And in your bill, you also talk about alternative things like real-world assets and other currencies. Innovative tech is changing. My concern about how you're defining virtual currencies is it's going to limit the variety of kiosks that are going to be developed over time, and we need to be looking both at specific virtual currencies as well as the cross-application down the road. So I'm just pointing out that the definition might be actually too narrow. But I do agree with those that have talked about the daily amount needs to be increased. The limit on the $5 or 15% I think is good. from the perspective of it being not usurious. I think my biggest concern with only 34 seconds is the warning of the losses due to fraudulent or accidental virtual currency transactions. That consumer warning is not clear on its face. It's not truthful in terms of the fact that there can be possible recovery, even though in most cases recovery is very difficult. So I would say that if we're trying to educate the consumers, we need to be looking at expanding this definition, having possibly a number on there that they can call in order to check to see if there is a problem who they can call. So again, with only 1 second left, I thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Senate Finance Committee. My name is Tammy Bresnahan. I'm the Senior Director of Advocacy for AARP Maryland. And this is kind of a new issue for us, but not around the country. We have something called the Fraud Watch program. And about a year ago, our lines started blowing up about people putting their money in these machines and not knowing where the money was going. It was gone, you know, the story. We met with the industry yesterday, and I am pleased to say that we're pretty much, I would say, 90% on the same page. You know, you have my written testimony. We have what we like. We do agree that the suspicious activity report is probably a better threshold to carry. We were talking about receipts, and you know, some of the programs can do a handwritten receipt, which is nice for our folks, but I think we can also compromise and say that we are in agreement that at least if they get something that they can take a screenshot of, that will give some people some ability to say, yes, this is where I put my money. Fraud refunds on first-time users, I think we are somewhere there, but it would be for the committee to decide. This is a real-life situation. People get calls from Security Exchange Commission. We've had Microsoft call people and tell them that their bank's been compromised when they tried to pay for a Microsoft product. We believe that 305 will help safeguard consumers, especially older adults who are disproportionately targeted by these frauds. We ask you for a favorable report on Senate Bill 305. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Colleagues, we have one more favorable with amendments virtual testimony. I'd like for that person to go, and then we'll turn it over to you for questions. Mr. Ethan McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Members of the committee, I appreciate the flexibility to allow me to testify virtually today. I am Ethan McClellan. I'm the Director of Government Relations at Bitcoin Depot. We are the largest operator of Bitcoin kiosks in the world. And similar to my colleague, Mr. Lipka, we support key regulatory measures in S305, including the comprehensive money transmitting licensing framework and virtual kiosk registration, clear warnings and disclosures for Bitcoin transactions, pre-transaction and anti-fraud warnings, requiring robust compliance programs for operators. And I should note that Bitcoin Depot is already implementing many of these measures. However, we support the bill with amendments, as my colleagues have discussed, including an increase in the daily transaction limits and fee caps. Currently, as drafted as 305, these restrictions would prevent legitimate businesses from operating sustainably in Maryland. The arbitrary transaction limit set at $1,000 would encourage criminals to structure transactions to avoid federal reporting requirements, make it harder for law enforcement and operators to detect and combat fraud, lead criminals to distribute transactions across multiple kiosks and kiosk operators, making it harder to track illicit activity. Operating a Bitcoin kiosk has significant costs, including purchasing, installing, and maintaining machines, renting space from small businesses, cash management and armored vehicle logistics, maintaining a robust compliance program as a department, and I'm sure all the members of the committee would like to see, cybersecurity and fraud prevention, and providing a live customer support. We would encourage Maryland to continue to collaborate with the industry. We are excited to work with the committee to continue to form S305 into something that we can support as an industry and allow the crypto kiosk industry to survive in Maryland and thrive. Thank you so much.
All right. Senator Hershey.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Question for Mr. Lipka.
Yes.
First of all, I appreciate you being here when you have legislation that seeks to target your business specifically. But as Tammy and I and many of us have worked on several times, we are certainly interested in looking for different businesses out there that might be, having deceptive actions and scamming and things like that. And we look to see if we can put some regulation in place that will prevent that. At the same time, we want to make sure that the good operators stick around and can do business in Maryland. And we aren't going too far to a certain direction to prevent that. So could you just explain, since you're here and you're the only operator, what your company does to prevent scams
Yes,
currently?
definitely.
And then one other time, just because I've heard it like 3 times now, what is blockchain? What is it? Blockchain analytics, if you might be able to hit on that as well, too. So,
Definitely.
Thank you.
So thank you for the questions. I appreciate the time. So I think it's been clear that as an industry, we are seeking regulation. I think that keeps the bad actors out and keeps the good actors in your state. And I know from experience that the states that have implemented money transmitter licensing for kiosk operators have less scams. I testified in Vermont, and the AG's office there had said they had received no reports of scams for kiosk operators at that time. And they have a very robust money transmitter licensing program, and they have little decals that you put on the machine so that the police can know it's a legitimate kiosk. So I think that Maryland is doing the right thing in pushing this bill for regulation. So what we do to protect consumers is both what traditional finance does, and then there are sort of the new technologies that are related to cryptocurrency. So it starts with state licensure that we've talked about. Highly visible scam warnings and fee disclosures are very important so people know what they're doing. And we want to make sure that the scam warnings in the bill are not so prescriptive that we can't change them as the scam topologies change. The scammers are always learning and trying to get around our scam prevention. So if there is a specific requirement, you have to say these specific words, then the scammers will just get around that. So we're constantly changing our scam warnings, and we've developed something called our Safe in 6 program, and I have copies of that I can give to you. It's 6 sort of common sense questions that you can ask yourself so that the customer will get out of the sort of the scam like fear that they're going to get arrested, right? Like the witness said, it's terrible. So these are questions like, are you being asked to make a financial transaction by someone you do not know? Are you being told to act quickly or secretly under threat? Are you being asked to lie? Does the offer seem too good to be true? Are you being asked to pay a government fine or bill using cryptocurrency or gift cards? So these are questions that you ask, because if you tell someone they're being scammed, they don't believe you. So you have to ask them these questions so they get to that conclusion themselves. So paired with the scam warnings is customer service. Every operator should have live customer service, because our warnings say, if you answered yes to one of these questions, stop, call our customer service. And I know that customers do call our customer service and say, hey, I read your scam warning. It says to call you. I'm going to be arrested if I don't pay my bail. And we say, that's not a legitimate thing. You can't do that. But if you just tell them you're being scammed and stop them from using your machine, they'll just go to the next operator, or they'll buy gift cards, and it doesn't actually stop the scam from happening. So those are things that are like traditional finance does that already. But what is important as well is having a robust compliance team and robust compliance policies and procedures. And I think that starts with having a chief compliance officer who does not own the company. We are pushing bills in a number of states. We have model legislation that's been introduced in Massachusetts and Florida and in Washington, where we say that the chief compliance officer should not own more than 20% of the company, because there's a conflict of interest between consumer protection and making a profit. Our CEO, who is here, he's not the chief compliance officer. He's the CEO. He's about making money. So our chief compliance officer is a former federal prosecutor, used to work for Morgan Stanley. I used to work at the Attorney General's office in Illinois. So we take consumer protection and compliance seriously. And the last part of that is the blockchain analytics. Blockchain analytics are a software tool that any legitimate Bitcoin ATM operator should use. These are made by third parties like CipherTrace or Elliptic. The federal government uses these, the FBI, the CIA, and this is a way to check the wallet. The wallet is like your account when you have cryptocurrency. When you go to the machine, before you put any money in, you scan your digital wallet. It's a QR code. That's where your Bitcoin will go. You scan your digital wallet, and we run blockchain analytics on that behind the scenes. And if that wallet has been associated with any criminal activity or fraud in the past, that transaction transaction is blocked and the customer has to call us, because that's an indication that the customer is being defrauded. Nobody should be sending to a level 10 wallet, which is the highest risk, because they're either a criminal themselves or they're being defrauded. And all of the Bitcoin ATM operators and all of the exchanges, we share with those blockchain analytics companies the bad wallets, so that somebody can't get scammed at the same wallet ever again.
I would just add to that, blockchain technology is an innovative tech tool, just like the internet, but from the technology side, it provides transparency, and also it's immutable. What that means is that it's time-stamped. And there are a lot of different blockchains, and one of the reasons why I also mentioned that how we're defining virtual currency, there might be other, we're talking about Bitcoin right now, but there might be other virtual currency kiosks that will be looking at altcoins or other things like that. So we are going to need to have definitely this type of legislation, but we're going to have to understand that the technology is changing. We need to have the flexibility to, as new businesses create these kiosks, to be able to track and trace as well. So,
Okay, well, thank you both, and again, I appreciate the chair's offer to help out with some amendments, and we'll certainly work together and speak with you all as well, too. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hershey. Are there any additional questions for this panel? Seeing none, thank you all so very much. This ends the hearing on Senate Bill 305.